everyone, and welcome to day one of Ireland Esports Collegiate Series, powered by Natives. I am OBK9, and we do have a special cast today, guys. With me is the lovable veteran. How are you doing, man?
What's up? I'm doing very good. I was told about this quite last minute, but I'm actually really excited to be here. It sounds really interesting. I love collegiate scenes in general, especially over in America. There's a big one, but people don't really know we have a pretty big one here in Europe as well that's doing fairly well, and especially on these Isles. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting regardless. We're starting off with an absolute banger of a game today as well. We've got UCD from last split, the champions, running it back to finals against TUD. And I mean, I know a lot of these players on the side of TUD, UCD. I think it's going to be a really good series, and it's going to be well, it's going to be one game, so it's going to be the format really will be, it's going to be a best of one between these teams, and we're going to finally get a little taster of these teams have been practicing, what the meta is like at the moment as well, with 13.20 just after landing, and I think it's going to be some pretty spicy picks potentially being picked here.
yeah, I'm interested in the 1320 changes. Like, generally, I try to stay away from patches until they hit competitive. So I haven't really had a reason to catch up to 1320 until today, and skimming through it, it's actually really interesting. In particular, I want to see how junglers react to these particular changes, because looking at it at first glance, I look at it and I think, well, ganking junglers are in, tank junglers are back in, my boy Rammus is going to be going everywhere. These kind of Graves middly picks are a bit less viable, so the kind of thing that like Yike was doing a lot in LEC, we're less likely to see that. But it also does mean, the big question from that, alright, so now are we playing more heavily to lanes? Are we likely to see more focus, like, top side glass, more focus bot side glass, rather than these, like, free lane pressure comps by play around jungle? So we're going to be like, no, everyone go on, for example, a Vayne top, or everyone go on, like, our hyper carry Jinx bot lane, get them really fed, and play that kind of aggressive game, because that's what I see when I see the 13-20 change.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I know TU Dublin are hiding a bit of spice in there. They've got something interesting going on. We've got Arcane, who, if anyone's familiar with what's happening in a couple of months, was a mid laner, has played some splits of the collegiate as a mid laner, and has decided to roll swap to the top lane. And now, a little bit on the hush here, I believe he has been playing that Vayne top himself, so we might see a bit of that spice get locked in this game against UCD. Really assert dominance early on, I guess, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think people generally have it wrong when they look at patches and they try to figure out how teams are going to react to those patches, and they think they're going to change up all their picks and stuff. I think kind of what happens every year is the team that wins Worlds is a team that incidentally is like built properly for that patch. Yeah, I have no idea what that patch was all the way back in January when they first entered the gaming house. But by almost coincidence, by necessity, they had to be the team that was best suited for it. So you tell me that there's a team that has like Vayne top, there's a team that has carries like this in certain areas. I think this is the perfect time for them to just all in on themselves and what they've been doing this whole time, just keep playing their own game.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of these players right now, I am familiar with some of them myself. We have Arcane in the top lane, we've got Razor in the jungle. Over on the side of UCD, some familiar faces like Put Bacon on Vegan. We've got also Why Do You Ask Me as well from the last split. So we got some players who are returning, and I mean, starting off immediately, we've got these bans. Garen banned away by TU Dublin against Put Bacon on Vegan. Razor's Fiddlesticks banned away here, and the Draven. What do we think here for the comfort bans?
Well, I would love to hear more about Razor's Fiddle. I think Draven, Fiddle, Garen, these are the kinds of champions I'm thinking of when I'm thinking we pick a lane and we heavy snowball on it. Fiddle you could somewhat argue a bit differently on, but there are really unique things you can do around mid lane with Fiddle, really unique things you can doing side dependent on either top or bot lane with Fiddle. That can help those kinds of snowballs and skirmishes and those fights you want to be forcing at critical points. Also, I mean, when I see Fiddle, I think Fiddlesticks mid. Right, so, I mean, something to tell me if that was ever actually going to be a real thing here. I think that Lilia is a top lane ban, right?
Lilia is a top lane ban, and it is going to be the Vayne. UCD fearing the Arcane Vayne and banning that away. That is some pretty Chad move from Arcane there to draw a ban. But yeah, so far we've seen a lot of comfort bans away. Interesting for the Garen against Put Bacon and Vegan. The UCD side are a bit more flexible in what they can put. They do have who was formerly Aegis in what looks to be the middle lane, but however, he is a top lane player as well. So is Bacon and Vegan, who is potentially playing top here, but there is a lot of flexibility in how they go about this, and they could look to swap these players around, maybe put Aegis on the Kesante, maybe put Bacon and Vegan on something, maybe like a Syndra, or maybe an AD carry mid, but they have a lot of flexibility in where they can go, which TUD can't exactly pin down, I think.
I mean, looking at our esteemed Vayne Tops champion pool, the thing that struck out to me is how many AD carries were up there. And we have seen Zeri play topside, for example. Ashe is a really underrated one, in my opinion, when it comes to top lane ADC. She's always been viable, and would also be a really good pick here, given that you already are seeing a Jhin locked in on the left side here. So that's kind of a pick that I could maybe see top. Kai'Sa's also being played top. Pretty much any AD carry that you see here is going to be a flex one way or another. I'm really interested in which one he's going to pick, because I think it's pretty much guaranteed he's going to do that, in which case I also makes me think about Malphite, right? Malphite on the other side there. If you can hold off until blue pick, then Malphite's what you want. And then maybe, in anticipation of that, we have the Karthus being locked in, right? Like, that's one of the worst case scenarios for a Malphite in that regard. He's going to be in a very vulnerable range. Even just removing Karthus at the start of the fight isn't really going to do all that much. And obviously, your itemization is very difficult if you're against Karthus jungle and an AD carry topside. So, I do like the Karthus pick. I also love Karthus plus Ashe as a double opener, because of the amount of jungle control you can give the Karthus in the early. Senna was generally the alternative in those instances, so I like that hover as well. The Nocturne one's weird because it implies potentially it's either a lane Nocturne or it's a lane Karthus, right? One of those two has to be the case. I love Karthus AD carry, one of the most brutally broken champions in the early levels, and obviously scales phenomenally as well. And Nocturne pressing R with Karthus pressing R, really classic combo. But you can also see Nocturne permawave clearing in mid lane, trying to get that priority to be able to help Karthus in the jungle wherever he needs it after 530 when she's level 6.
I believe LuzaQ has actually played Karthus before in some of the community games, so it wouldn't be surprised if that is a Karthus AD carry for LuzaQ for TUD. What they pair it with, I do not know, as we do see the Maokai and Nami locked in there. A lot of teamfight potential so far, especially on that Jhin being locked in as well. There's a lot going on for UCD, and I'm kind of liking their picks. And I do see the Jace being hovered there for TUD. That would be pretty interesting from Arcane. I don't know whether he'll pull it off here, but I mean, it is a ranged champion. It might not be an AD carry. Can be melee, can be ranged. Best of both worlds.
It's loads of flexes going on here, right? But what you do know is you do not have the kind of damage mix that you would want to be able to itemize against the Karthus. That's just not happening here, right? Loads of burst on the Jace, loads of burst on the Nocturne. You have to account for that as well when you're thinking about this Karthus. Karthus could open the fights here with his R, right? Doing R at the beginning of the fights, and then trying to play kite, trying to play utility for the rest of it, and just land as many Qs as possible and be as disruptive as possible with those Qs. You do that, it's so difficult for his opponents not to fall, given the amount of heavy AD on the setup. You also have just the immense poke of the Jace, the immense range of the R threat from the Nocturne. It's such a difficult composition to play into that we're seeing here. Obviously, Maokai, really good champion by himself, but Maokai presses R, Nocturne presses R, none of that follow-up's happening, all of the damage is still being able to happen, and you lose that window, and in long fights, team on the right wins. And I'd argue even in a short fight scenario, like, how does team on the right not win as well? So I think looking very good for them so far. So I love
Something
that.
I will say though is mid laners are available still for Disco Dano, and Disco Dano would be a very hyper aggressive mid laner, so I'll be a bit surprised if he does opt for something a bit more utility focused. And so I don't know, I'm not really too sure what they do round this out with. They are hovering the Rakan though, which again a nice support, but what do they want to pair that with for LuzaQ? I don't know. I actually don't know.
if they want to do me one, right? So all three champions that they just hovered have been played top lane by a Korean player called Addy, who I absolutely love. And in my head, one of the best things you could do bot side, given that they were hovering the Senna, would also be the Ashe. So what they could do is just opt into Ashe last and then throw the Thresh in top lane there. And it's a very monster broken draft with far too many tools to keep the Karthus safe or to reposition him better for potential suicide flanks. And it would be a lane played very heavily around bot. Because the way that you play out those Rakan lanes, those Thresh lanes, those Yuumi lanes is that basically post 6 you just live bot lane. For the rest of the game, you don't really care about what happens topside. So that is a possibility. I doubt it would actually happen though, right? We're likely to just see Thresh either with Karthus or with an AD carry. It's probably going to be like Nocturne mid, Karthus jungle, Jace top, and then Thresh plus ADC on bot lane. But the option is there because all 3 champions that they hover there are actually potential top laners in a really spicy scenario. And there's a lot of spice already on that team. Aatrox being locked in, just saw him almost single-handed. Oh, actually, pretty much did single-handedly carry VCS today at the World Championship. So that's all fresh on my mind. The way that UCD Leviathan win here is with a really heavy all-in scenario. It's very boring. A really heavy all-in scenario where they're able to insta-give the Jace and the Karthus in one go, and they do have a lot of a long-range engage to do that, but they can't piecemeal it. They can't throw out the Maokai ult, throw out some Vex poke, you know, have Aatrox do a little bit of skirmishing, have Jhin press the R, and not follow up with everything else. One of them does something, they all have to do something, and you can see the difficulty of doing that into a Thresh with his disengage, into an Ornn with his disengage, and into a Nocturne who's just going to press R and blind absolutely everybody. And the Karthus who's going to be like, yes, gimme, 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 I got all the damage here, please come in, baby.
It is pretty intense for these comps, to be fair. I think I like both comps. I like UCD's comp as well. There's a lot of snowball potential going on there. Jhin could do a lot early on against Karthus. And I mean, with the Maokai, there is also a lot of potential for flanks, objective control as well. And then you've got an Aatrox as well, who, if he gets ahead, can pretty much 1v9 most games. So depending on what Madamars does there, it could be also a way for UCD to get into this. Both teams have a lot of options that they can do.
The biggest thing about all-in compositions is that the way that they work best is if your opponents are misstepping. And you can assume a lot of missteps will happen. They happen the World Championship level of things. Yes, they're going to happen in Irish Collegiate as well. So long as UCD are decisive, they can break open windows, right? They find a 3v1 that turns into a 3v2 that turns into a final 3v2, right? Something like this, and they will be able to win out on those scenarios so long as they are committed. Again, one of them goes in, everyone around them has to go in as well. You have to commit to this play. If they are decisive, they can absolutely win this.
I think you're dead right there as well. I think it's interesting for the plays here, but looking at like rank discrepancy and maybe just a bit more experience. I mean, I know a lot of people on the side of TUD Apes. They're pretty seasoned players as far as the Irish community tournaments go. And I mean, Disco Dano is a very, very good mid laner. I'm not sure what he'll do on the Jace, but it's still something. He can still just chill, especially versus Vex. I don't know what the Jace and the Vex match would be like, but I also think regardless, he does play for lane dominance, does play for a lot of kind of stomp lane win game, and I could say he could do a lot to that to Vex, especially if he isn't really punished early, does get CS leads and does kind of move with it, and especially with the likes of Arcane in the top lane. I mean, Arcane's playing that Ornn in the top lane from the looks of things, which is again pretty interesting. I haven't seen him play Ornn before, so that could also be an area where it could fall behind. You could get that Aatrox insanely fed. I'm not really too sure what Arcane can do in the Ornn. If he does fall behind, if he does give Aatrox maybe double his farm or let Aatrox get a couple of kills, it could snowball again for the side of UCD. So there is a lot to go on.
So I'm just going to claim like I have absolutely no knowledge here, particularly of which player is which. So I would really help me out if you were to say like bot top ADC or something like that.
Yeah,
as you're saying
no, there's no other. Yeah.
But
so the TUD Apes top laner.
Yeah, so I'm curious about if it's Karthus jungle or if it's not just simply Karthus bot lane. I think for damage mix, it's going to be best if it's Karthus jungle. But I could see them... It is? Okay, so in my ear, it is Karthus ADC. That has, well, Karthus bot lane, I should say. That has just been confirmed in my ear. Alright, brilliant. So I love that. So this is going to be a very, very aggressive start on the bot lane here. The Ornn is just going to play full famine on towards top side, and the purpose of the Nocturne Jace is not to play 2v2, it's to threaten 2v2 insofar as they get lane priority, and they should be willing to drop waves on mid to get this Karthus ahead on bot lane. it's not optimal for the damage mix in the sense that like you could see a early, well, back in the day we would just said early Seekers, but they added 200 gold into that, and then before that we just said maybe you would go an early Ninja Tabbies, but you know, they scuffed all of that, so it's just not a good time to be mages in general. You don't really have that many good options against early AD that don't also result in a complete lack of damage on your side. So what you're going to be left with instead is a losing 2v2 situation with a potential Calf Assault coming in at any point. So it's not that good of a round for them to play in. Nocturne Jace just plays 2v2 on mid, disengages it, leans bot, and just the half roam on bot, with the range Nocturne can engage on, with the amount of poke Jace can do from very, very far away, means that any trade potential on bot lane that a Nami, who really wants these things, and a Jhin, who's really good at these things as well, is suddenly far, far, far riskier than normal, right? Even, say there's a world where Vex and Maokai get out ahead of Nocturne and Jace, that's still a risky world, because Jace, Nocturne, they can be behind you and still be a part of that fight, and crucially, you press R on that Maokai, Nocturne presses R, and even if he's not in range to follow up on that R, you've lost all of your coordination. So very, very strong, let's play super hard around this Karthus lane. If we're going to actually get into the game, they're going to play super carry Ornn or something, and everything I've just been saying is just completely false, and I'm just chatting shit, so we'll see.
Well, sure, look, we're going to see something anyway, but look, we're going to get into this game very soon. It's going to be really exciting. Game 1's about to start, but for now, lads, we are going to go for a quick break, but we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. And we're on the Rift for the first ever game of Ireland Esports Collegiate Series, powered by Natives. I'm OBK9 if you're just tuning in. With me is Veteran and Veteran. We are absolutely hype for this. UCD TUD, as a TUD alumni, I cannot wait, and I hope my boys from TUD do well. What are we thinking?
No, mate. Here's a 4-on-1, alright? Okay, we just spent ages talking about Nocturne Jace. We'll play 2v2 mid, go straight towards bot lane, all about this Karthus over and over, just fist him in Eternal, and even if they try to match it, right, on UCD Leviathan's side, it's not happening, right? Like, Nocturne presses R, you lose all of your coordination, they only have to half roam. You could argue that only you have to half roam as well, but the problem is, if you initiate first, they will always win. And if they initiate first, you can't necessarily follow up. They even necessarily have to do that, right? So, what do you do instead? What you have to do is you have to all in on top side, right? Aatrox plus Maokai, you want to talk about difficult itemization? That is horrible for Ornn. Gets destroyed by Aatrox in a single one-on-one scenario anyway, and if Maokai is spending all of his time up there, what are you going to do? You're going to tell Nocturne to play around the Ornn? That would be terrible, right? Because Ornn on 2 items is going to win out in team fights anyway. So that's what I want to see from UCD Leviathans. I want to see them try to do something hard around top side, try to force Arcane Reborn to play like Adam did when Upset was on his team, and just have to drop 40 CS every game and pray that bot lane will be able to get him towards that 2-item team fight spike, or maybe even end the game before it's a bigger problem, because the Aatrox will get ahead. That's the advantage that they have in their draft. They need to play through that. So it's a top lane game versus a bot lane game. None of this free lane stuff, none of this jungle stuff. Alright, just fist fight to the death. That's what I want to see first game here.
I agree. I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how this early game goes, and especially I think early objective control could be a factor as well, maybe opt for these dragons. But yeah, I think regardless, UCD have the work cut out for them, even just from the names. Yeah. But I think it's going to be pretty interesting to see how they play.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chinese man has the mental edge by having his name in all caps, right? The pressure of essentially being mentally yelled at over and over again by the Ornn, by a better matchup as well, I mean, that's got to do a number on him.
I agree. I think he's just laying in the law, and already he's won the mental battle. So I'm interested to see how he takes the game battle.
Yeah, I mean, Ornn is actually doing some pretty significant pokes on top side there. Like, this is actually a pretty good scenario. He's unfortunately a level down.
The flash force from Arcane, though.
Yeah. Even a level down right there, big problem. You're still there for the Q2, and if you're there for the Q2, you're definitely there for the Q3. And it was a level 3 Aatrox there, so unless you are like a god among gods of predicting this guy's E, you're gonna lose that every single time.
Oh, Chinese man, though, just took a shot! Oh! Chinese man, with the absolute outplay, didn't need to blow flash, didn't need anything there, and he takes out Arcane.
Very, very huge. TP's going to come out for the Ornn here, but Aatrox definitely has enough time to get out of dodge and then respond with his own teleport. But that is big, right? We were saying UCD Leviathans, they need to get this top lane going. Didn't even need the Maokai for that. Maokai ain't even pathing that direction. He's like, you know what, brother? I'm going to let you go. If Nocturne's going to appear topside, that's terrible for them. Let you do your thing.
And it's looking pretty aggressive here. The flash forced away from Luzaku,
Wow.
who's ignited already. And Tidal trying to get away. Lantry coming in to try and shield him. But it looks like nothing's happening. Although Putbake and a Vegan still hovering around that bot side. Might look for a peak gank here.
Yeah, I mean, no exhaust burned and no ignite burned either. The thing about pairing fresh with the Calf is that you have to be the decisive one. When a fight's available, you have to be willing to all in at that point, or the Nami Jhin lane, they will win over time. That fight lasts longer than one rotation of Nami spells. You will lose that fight. Very, very simple basics of a pick base lane versus a trade base lane. But they couldn't do that.
Out comes the flash, then comes the W from the Jhin. Thresh trying to run away with his life. Exhaust comes out in the way you asked me. Luzaku, though, doesn't have much mana left. He's trying to take a trade here, but doesn't look like anything too mad's going to happen here. But Priston is getting taken a bit low himself from minion aggro.
Yeah, I mean, and what's the biggest symptom of Luzaku? It's your jungler just not doing at all what you wanted. The big thing that's prevented them doing that. Wow.
That was pretty smart, to be fair. Out comes the Ignite, and Tidal goes down. Why do you ask me? Dropping down the autos to take him out there. And I mean, yeah, it was just a bit aggressive from Entitled.
Nami, I mean, I think it was a good thought process from Entitled. Their problem is that Nami right there, you know, she is here as a professional gamer. Bear in mind, none of them are full-time. Wow, a death straight there. None of them are full-time here. And it turns out that Nami plays for the Russian Royal Ballet in her spare time, in her time not playing League of Legends, and just fancy feet everywhere there. But this is the opposite of what we were expecting. This is
Putbake and a Vegan's here. He might be able to do something. Third aggro coming through. Root comes down. Knockback on Arcane. Arcane's taken super low. He's not going to take that extra tower shot, and they get away.
This is the opposite of what we're expecting though now. So TUD Alpha are getting advantages in the top lane, and UCD Leviathans are getting advantage on bot side, though arguably UCD Leviathan, they're able to get advantages on both. Crucially, the big thing is that the jungle presence so far has been Maokai bot lane for UCD and jungler top side for TUD Alpha. And the fact that Nocturne puts so much emphasis on getting that double scuttle to include that top side scuttle is why Luzaku and Entitled weren't able to all in on the initial trades against Jhin Nami. And because Nocturne was top side there, Nami was able to get multiple rotations out, and they were able to get those kills on bot lane. And given the reason for that, Nocturne just had to do what he could on top side. It's more of a desperation play. Like, it is big, getting that kill against Aatrox, stemming that snowball, and I'm glad that kill went to Nocturne. Because a level 6 Nocturne, with an early kill, with this item, that could be really, really big to turn this game back in TUD Alpha's favor.
We do see Madamars with the ulti straight down onto Luzaku, who immediately gets taken out, and he's going more aggressive against Entitled. Down comes the Ignite. Is he going to go out? No, and they get one kill for the side of UCD Leviathans.
Yep, I mean, not level 6 yet on that Nocturne, and the Jace not able to do the roam in towards bot side. Vex is like, okay, Jace is going to get a bunch of stuff here, but we have a win condition happening now. Now I am willing to sack. Vex wasn't going to become the win condition. Maybe she could have, but you already knew for a fact you had the win condition on bot side, so she gives up farm to go and play heavily towards that. This is where you start breaking the rules. When you have an advantage, you play through the advantage, and you're able to break the rules to do that, because the game is entirely about that advantage. And Jhin Nami, you know, they did it themselves. They did it all by themselves in that 2v2 on bot side. Yes, they had the Maokai hovering in there, but they were very, very aggressive. They fancy-feated the Thresh. Very, very well played so far by UCD Leviathans.
I think it's interesting the fact that TUD Alpha playing the Karthus Thresh, a lane that scales very well, is so far behind already fairly early on. I mean, he's already 15 CS down, currently 2 kills down as well, and it's going to be very hard for Luzaku to come back into this. I guess maybe he could pick up some assists with that Requiem later on, but until then, he really needs to play more safe.
Yep, I do wonder, like, if I'm TUD Alpha looking back at the VODs, I would just be wondering how do they know that Nocturne is topside, and whatever gives them the info that Nocturne is topside, that's probably where things are going wrong there, right? On that initial opening clear, because that was the go signal for Jhin Nami. Or Jhin Nami wanted to go down fighting, wanted to force something really early because they know they have a trade-based lane, and didn't really care whether Nocturne was topside or not. One of these two things had to be true. I feel like they should lose a 3v3 if Nocturne's down there, and both Exhaust Ignite are used, but these are the questions that should be asked after the game. But for now...
Down comes the bubble. We do see Priston did land a bubble down, but didn't matter because he gets taken out by the Nocturne.
Yep. for now, it's still anyone's game, right? Nocturne, with that early power from that kill topside that he was able to get, he's now transferring that. He's trying to become the carry for TUD Alpha. We thought it would be the Karthus. We also thought it would be Aatrox on the other side. But instead, no, this game is now Nocturne versus Jhin, and which team can play around that the best. And I've got to say, right, Karthus level 6, if I'm a jungler, I love having that kind of presence on my team, especially if I'm the guy that needs to carry, because no matter where Nocturne is, you can't think of it as like a 1v1 or a 2v1 or whatever. You have to add like a 0.5 to it, because that Karthus ultimate is ever present, and if you're itemizing against Nocturne, you're not itemizing against the Karthus. And previously we were talking about that in favor of, playing carry Karthus. Now we can figure that in favor of buffing a carry Nocturne, and that carry Nocturne will get us to that carry Karthus late game.
Something that I think probably might have been a factor that threw TUD Alpha a fair bit as well is with this UCD side having 3 flexible lanes, we did see a lane swap occurring there from the prescribed lanes where we saw Madam Mars in the mid lane put Bacon and Vegan, and maybe that threw him a bit as we do see a fight about to break out here. The ulti from Maokai gonna land down onto the Karthus, knockback, get knocked up from the Jhin W, Ignite coming down, Q is going to go down, Entitled trying to run away, Hook does not connect, here's Razor maybe to try and do something, and out comes the Requiem from Q, but Bacon and Vegan is now super low at the moment. He might be able to get out of it if Razor doesn't go too aggressive, but we see Priston up in the tidal wave to maybe stop Razor. Out comes the curtain call, down goes the Nocturne, and Entitled trying to get away with his life, but here comes Disco Dano. He wants a bit of the action himself. He's going aggressive. He wants Priston. He's trying to get something back, and he might be able to, as Whitey Waskley does get hooked. Dano takes out Priston with the Jace Q, but they do manage to take out the threat. Meanwhile, Dano just looking for something, and I think that's going to be all the action.
Yeah, I mean, UCD Leviathans are trading up, but Nami there, hats off to her, right? She was willing to trade her life to get Jhin those kills. She knows the objective of the game right now, and I think that was brilliant by her, right? Like, yes, there are potentially ways that she could have played that where she is able to live, but this is about winning more now for them, right? Not about trying to get some mythological perfect game. So really happy with the way that she played that out. Really happy with how heavily UCD are targeting where TUD are weak right now, right? They created a crack in the TUD shell. They're going to keep hammering at it until it becomes a hole that they're able to bore through in towards their nexus.
I mean, provided that Karthus doesn't do much damage, you really could just start itemizing armor defensively against Dano and Razor and make that crutch into nothing, and eventually, what are TUD going to do if they just start stacking armor? As soon as Aatrox gets beefier, put Bacon and Vegan starts getting some of these armor items potentially, and it's going to be pretty tough for TUD at the moment.
It's very tough. I mean, I think the most obvious reason why is that we do have, in the very, very, very near future, a brand new Godzilla movie coming out, which obviously would favor UCD Leviathans, and yet the King Kong franchise has kind of been put on the back burner, right? Like, didn't really work out due to the writers strike, due to COVID. As a result, in this matchup, or this Godzilla v Kong matchup, I mean, UCD Leviathans, they have a really big buff, they have all of the funding, and we're just waiting for TUD Alpha to come out with something. They do have a monster in the jungle right now, but it's not the monster that they were expecting to be able to present here. That Karthus in the bot lane, he's 0-3 right now. Jhin, 5-0-1, alright? Stomping it all up down there. They have to find a way to get on him. The good news, right? The good news there is that you have an Ornn, you have a Nocturne, you have a Jace. It's very difficult for Jhin to play out these fights into those kinds of champions. He has to put on the Nami Royal Ballet performance to try to get out of all of that, because that Ornn R2, if he just holds on to it, really limits the amount that Jhin can do. The permanent pressure of the Jace QEs coming out, right? That puts a lot on what Jhin can do. He's going to have to play these fights very well because he's not getting any tankier.
Oh, you see the paranoia coming down there, and it does look like Jhin does go down. As you said, they just turn it. And what can Jhin do when that fight started, when you have a paranoia of Karthus and the Thresh on you?
Alright, he's bringing it back though, right? Like, this Nocturne, he had all of the kills, he had to make something work. He's picked up the bounty on the Jhin, and suddenly, that gargantuan lead, it has entirely vanished. Only a 1k gold difference now between TUD Alpha and UCD Leviathans. Jhin off the map, all your gold difference was really on him. So for now, they can just keep extending this play on bot lane as long as they want. I do like that Karthus just removed himself from the map here. He still has his ultimate up as well, which makes the next round of plays very interesting. 30 seconds to Drake.
Maokai ulti missed onto Razor there as well, which is pretty tough for the side of UCD. And it looks like they might have just got caught out there as the other members of TUD have arrived. Razor gets out. What are they going to do now? Curtain call, but pretty much wasted now as well, as Dano, unfortunately, is also going to maybe a bit too ham. And at the end of that all, what started off as a missed Maokai ulti by Bacon and Vegan turned into a kill for UCD.
I want to say that the Jace death is really, really big, because in this is...
Oh, yeah, this is bad. Why do you ask me? Is looking for something here. Oh. He does get one. He does get two. And that's going to be 2 kills for UCD. And now this is a better play.
The Nami bubble on the Lantern coming in turns into a twofer. Grabs loser Q. Grabs Fresh. We're well and truly in loser Q now for sure. I was going to say that the Jace death, pretty big deal, given that his permanent rotation of spells is very, very good around neutral objective standoffs. But that Karthus going in there and just exposing himself up front, wanting to rely on that Fresh to get him out. Very, very big miscalculation by all involved. And suddenly, right, UCD Leviathan, they're back in the game. And now they have 2 pretty big carries here, right? The gold is on the Vex and the gold is on the Jhin. The gold hasn't been going to the Maokai, it hasn't been going to the Nari, it's been going to the targets you want it to go to. A lot of damage right now. So long as they keep being decisive, you will find people mispositioned. It was just the Karthus Fresh there. It was the Jace a little bit before that. It will be someone else later. You just have to go in.
Out comes the Nature's Grasp, trying to do something. Disco Dana, though, going to get away from the Lantern. Razor now just looking to disengage. They haven't got anything yet. The only thing that was blown was the Flash and the Nature's Grasp, which I don't think is too bad for TUD.
I mean, every time that I want to all in on the ranged composition with the powerful picks, that should win every fight if they just play them properly in the standoffs, in the contests, and blah, blah, blah. Versus, you know, the team that just, like, has burst, you know? Like, the 8-monkey neuron brain will always win. Look, behold, you've knocked him down, you've burst him. The counterplay there. Like, there really isn't one. The counterplay is that Karthus just doesn't position forward like that. When Fresh is in base, when his jungler is topside, when there's absolutely no way that he could possibly have any backup there. But, you know, people make these mistakes. They make these mistakes at the absolute highest level. You can guarantee on that. And if you start abusing those mistakes really early on in the game, it becomes a bit more of a mental game. It's way easier to make those mistakes when you've already been making them at the start, and they suddenly become more and more punishing the longer the game goes on for. So, love the aggression by UCD Leviathans. The worst thing they can do is stop going in all the time. They shouldn't assume that the Karthus is making the right decision, and there's a Fresh dead. Jace dead.
Yeah, Jace is dead in that bot lane. I don't know what happened there off cam, but Disco Dano gets taken out by the Jhin, and I mean, currently, why do you ask me, is an absolute Giga Chad steamrolling through TUD members one by one.
Just keep going, man. Just go all in, all the time. Keep up the pressure. Don't stop. Right, you have the damage.
Jhin W connects, Nature's Grasp connects, and down goes Razor, but we're not finished there. He's still alive, but he goes down entitled, trying to get him out. Might die as well as he blew the flash. Jhin picks up 2 kills. Why do you ask me? On an absolute killing spree here as UCD are steamrolling through TUD, and there really isn't much TUD can do about it.
Yep, a 3v1 that turns into another 3v1 that transitions into, at worst, a 5v2 for them. That's how this composition should play. We're talking about it at the start, right? When you see these all-in compositions, that's what they want to do. They are decisive. That's what we wanted. We wanted decisiveness. No way!
Alive.
That's so depressing, actually. Wow.
I would not be happy if I was Karthus, I'll say that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they had like a severe bot lane with like Karthus jungle, I'd say there's still like a lot of room for them to be able to like wait out a siege. I guess the big thing is that no structures have gone down yet. You see the Leviathans, they're on killing sprees, they're taking them down over and over again, but they have lost mid lane tower to get that much power on their team. And they haven't translated this into any objectives yet. Despite mid lane tower being down, they're still sending their bot lane bot.
I mean, Disco Dano is just rage splitting. He's just CS Rampage here. I mean, he's the highest CS in the game. I mean, besides that one death bot, he hasn't actually been doing too much neither. I'd say he's probably thinking the classic Irish strategy of rage split bot lane, CS up, and hopefully win at 3 items.
And I think that will work so long as that rage split is met by the duo lane that you ideally want to be hitting mid tower. Because if they're bot lane, you have the ability to just run away from them, right? Whereas if they're mid lane, pushing out mid, threatening that tower, you can't extend on bot because suddenly this Jhin is going to half roam towards bot side and kill you. it's not the same amount of pressure if it's like the Vex on mid lane. So I would prefer to see, you know, the setup that we have right now. But it took way too long. We're almost in the late game for them to do it, and because they didn't do it, TUD Alpha, maybe they're not getting the kills, but they're getting the objectives, and they're holding on to control of the map.
Yeah, TUD currently at the moment are in a really tough position. I do think there is an avenue for them to come back into, but I mean, at the moment, as we can see, Putbacon and Vegan, just a certain dominance in that red side jungle at the moment, trying to take those Raptors. And I mean, unless UCD kind of take the foot off the accelerator and they start getting these shutdowns, which, I mean, to be fair, TUD have options to do that. They do have an avenue where they can take out that Jhin and take out that Vex, but I mean, with that front line of the Maokai and Aatrox, even if he wants to get involved in it, it's just very hard right now for TUD.
Are we allowed to mention other games on this stream?
I'm not sure.
Let's find out. Do you ever play Stellaris?
We are allowed to.
I'm gonna assume that's fine for the moment. Well, okay, it's a video game I love to play sometimes called Stellaris, right?
Yeah.
In that game, you can build mega structures, right? So I could build, like, a sanctuary. That's going to give me, like, full vision of the entire map, so long as I, like, build it up over an extended period of time, right? But initially, it doesn't do anything. The massive amount of resources then doesn't do anything. Right now, that Karthus, that Jace, that Nocturne, these are all mega structures. These are all the sentry arrays, right? And UCD Leviathans, they can't be playing a slow game. They're playing a fast game in terms of kills, but they're not destroying the map. Right here, right now, look where Jhin is on the map, versus look where the waves are for TUD Alpha. Who is actually in control of the map?
They're forcing a Baron!
Yeah, like, they are in full control.
The Vex does not an angle here for the ulti, and they do find something. In comes the Nature's Grasp to try and do something. Out comes the box from Thresh, trying to slow a bit of damage through, but they do take out one. Razor is trying to run away with his life, but a serious amount of damage came through with the Tristan there from the Karthus. Takes out one. And it looks like they stopped the Baron, but TUD managed to get two kills back for that in favor of two. So it's
But the map is even, right? The map is in an even state from this, and the longer you slow this down, the more that megastructure is being built. And when that megastructure ends, the whole galaxy is going to get told, because it's basically game over right there, and you pretty much guarantee the victory. So they need to prevent this happening now, but it's taken them a bit too long to remember. This game ends when you explode the Nexus, not when you reach the victory condition of a certain amount of kills, because we disabled that in the select screen before we went in, and we did hit Iron Mode. There are no do-overs here. It is a BO1.
Fight is breaking out here. Disco Dano looking to engage, not punished by Why Do You Ask Me and Bacon and Vegan. They're running for their life. Out comes the Paranoia from the Nocturne down onto this Jhin. They do manage to take him out. A big shutdown goes over. Down also goes the Maokai to Disco Dano, and they're going for this Baron again. They're going for this Baron again for TUD here, and they might get it.
It's very difficult to go in here with the Ornn having the ultimate up, with the Karthus existing with W, with the Jace being able to output DPS upon DPS. It's so difficult to go in here and to find the opening to do so. They're going to have to try to do a trade like they did the last time just to prevent the Baron.
In comes Man of Mars. He's looking for something. He takes out Razor. They've no smite.
Oh my God,
what is going on, TUD? They're out. Baron goes over, though, to TUD. Karthus makes sure he gets that, but they might all just die in the process. They're not going to get anything. UCD going hyper aggro there, and what started off as a really nice Baron is now going to be a fight nearly in favor of UCD. A bit of delay, but not going to stop everyone. And Entitled, the last member, running for dear life there to keep that Baron buff safe.
One Baron buff, but you've prevented the Baron buff, which will be a big accelerant for UCD Leviathan, and you have one for yourself. That's going to help you stall so long as you rotate that Thresh where he needs to go. And stalling is still the name of the game. Obviously, yes, it could have gone better. The whole game could have gone better for TUD Alpha, but we are seeing map control versus bloodthirsty killers here. Map control's winning, right?
I agree. It's pretty safe plays here. TUD Alpha forcing mad fights, but at the same time, they are also net even in terms of like structures they're taking. They aren't like that top tier 2 is super low as well, and I mean one push from Disco Dano and that'll go down soon as well. So they are slowly trying to crawl their way back, and even with all these fights going on, it's a 2.6k goal difference, and we've seen 31 kills so far. So even with all these kills, there's not that much goal difference.
I love this game. I love this game. Both teams are committed here. They both really want this win, and they're both playing like they really, really want it.
Nature's
Remember
grasp.
what we said, committance.
Oh, he landed it anyway! He went back out,
it.
Arcane blocked it for nothing, but Luzaku forced to take the lantern to
Commit.
get out. Arcane
Commit.
gets hit by the W from Jin. They're going in aggressively. In comes the Karthus ulti, and it's a nice Requiem going out there from Luzaku. They take out the Vex, which is a big shutdown there. TUD, hook lands now. This time on the Priston, can they slow it down? Jace going to take out one. Jace taking out two. Down goes three. TUD are in the game from the looks of things, and why do you ask me, is trying to get out of it. I don't know if he will as well, considering the hook doesn't connect.
Yeah, it doesn't connect, but they don't really need to do anything. If he appears under any one of these towers trying to defend it, they're just going to dive him all the same. They have a Jace, they have a Nocturne, they have a Thresh. They have the ability to just run it down on mid lane here with that one Baron play that the Thresh enables for them. Jace, one of the best turret killers of the game. They're going to get a lot for this. A lot in terms of structures, a lot in terms of map tempo. Right now, I don't really see a route sort of just gargantuan levels of int from TUD Alpha where UCD Leviathans come back into the game. They started off very strong. They are still
They're down in gold.
Over. Yeah, but the map control has always been in favor of TUD Alpha. Those structures coming in really hot, but crucially, they prevented UCD Leviathans getting anywhere near their nexus. And now I think they have been as close as they were ever going to get.
Nature's grasp down into this dragon. They're trying to force TUD off it. Doesn't hit anyone though, it looks like, and we do have the Jace to pincer them in, and it looks like he gets caught though as Vex gonna engage them. A lot of damage coming through. Dano just barely alive, gonna pop that explosive plant to stay alive. Out comes the paranoia. They do take out the Karthus though. Meanwhile, it looks like Bubacon and Vegan is gonna go down, but here comes the remaining members of UCD. Dano is still alive, and he is chunking people out from the looks of things. It's going to be a 1-for-2 in favor of TUD. TP coming through here as well for Arcane, and they're going for that dragon again.
Put Bacon on Vegan, not just a beautiful name, but also beautiful play from him. And right there, I think Chinese Man had to, you know, word of the day. What do I think Chinese Man had to do there?
It's all caps.
He had to commit. He had to commit with the Maokai, but he moved back, waited for his team to group up. No. Any opportunity you get now is the best opportunity you're going to get. Otherwise, you're going to have a slow, painful, and eventual death, as he just had. Yeah,
the TUD forced plays there. They forced that dragon twice, even though it didn't look that great at the start. You saw from that chunk damage Dano was able to output, and I said that earlier on. Dano was up in CS. I knew he was rage split, and I know with Dano's playstyle, if he's not the one carrying, he'll make sure he gets enough CS to be the one who does. And as you can see, it's really paying dividends there, as he had a serious amount of chunk damage, but he was assisted a bit by Razor, who did start that paranoia, did get that fight going, and I think as well as that, they were just on the same page. And I think when they were on the same page as each other, it just went a lot more smoothly for TUD. And UCD, once they were on that back foot, had to disengage and ended up being a 2v4, and they just got a free dragon out of it.
I mean, look, shout outs to both junglers this game, right? Razor, yep, I have questions about the opening clear relative to the objectives, but he had the only kills. He was the one who had to make something happen with it. He got the initial shutdown on the Jhin, and he kept them in the game. Those objective plays in the mid section of the game was very, very, very crucial for how they're in this situation now. And on the other side, that jungle Maokai as well, the most committed to all the plays since late game began. For the Nami, you know, the caffeine's worn out, right? Like, we did all our fancy feet early game. A little bit difficult to do stuff like that now, but my god, the Maokai, he snorted his pre-workout. He is on it. He's going all in all the time. Luzaku thinks he's escaping, not today. So long as he starts yelling in comms, go, 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 and, you know, putting out, you know, just enough threats to be able to get his team to do something, but not enough to get kicked from his university, then I think they still have a chance to win. He just needs full commitment from the rest of his team. Yeah, sometimes it looks like maybe it might not work out, but if you back off, it definitely won't work out. And if the play won't work out now, you're not winning this game. Everyone needs to realize this. Every single play is potentially the last opportunity you have to win the game in the state it is right now, against the Karthus, against the Nocturne, against the Jace. So just go all in all the time. Follow your snorted pre-workout Maokai and go in.
I couldn't have said it better myself, veteran. I think at the moment as well, especially with Baron being up, TUD looking to get that vision control down, this fight might just be the last. Considering how fast TUD have turret taking potential, I think this is going to be the last fight if TUD win this. UCD might be able to stall it. I think they still take the turrets relatively fast, but I don't think it's anything near what TUD can do at the moment. So I think at the moment, especially with this, all 4 or 5 members hopping around that Baron side, UCD in the position where they really want to get some of this vision down on that Baron.
Yeah, I mean, if they're first in, though, like, think about it. You're trying to go through that Karthus W. You're trying to play around that Ornn R, which basically covers all of the entrances coming in. And if you are just stalled there, the Jace poke will wear you down. So a lot of damage, a lot of threat. Fresh R as well, right? There are so many ways.
Look at the damage from Dano there.
There's the Jace, there's the Jace. You play this slow, the Jace just pokes you down, right? You play this fast, and the Ornn, the Fresh, they capitalize on you going in. So
oh, I love this from TUD.
Yeah, I mean, they have to do it. I mean, there's no reason for them not to, right? The enemy are basically 1 hit away from death. It's perfect time to do it now. They want these guys to go in. They threaten the Baron. They force them to come into any of those choke points. And like I say, the Fresh, the Ornn, they solidify the win there. They play it slow. The Jace will slowly get them the opportunity to do that balance. So very, very well played. It was over the moment TUD got that vision control of Baron, to be honest.
TUD just played that macro game so much cleaner than UCD for so much of that mid game, and definitely that carried them through it in a situation where, under normal circumstances, I'd say, why do you ask me? And maybe even Madamars could have just taken a dodgy fight and probably won the game off that. But I think just slowly turtling and slowly taking those objectives while TUD or UCD were chasing those kills. TUD were just chasing that slow goal, that objective play, as we do see a fight breaking out here. Alkai ulti gonna go down to Arcane, but the paranoia comes out from the Nocturne. Call of the Forge God going to connect onto the Nami and take out Priston. Hook connects as well onto Madamars. Forced the Zanya's double kill against that Jhin, and Dano is doing so much damage. Exhaust goes down into Chinese Man, but Bacon and Vegan also trying to run away, but do TUD have the damage to kill Chinese Man before he gets to Peebov? He might not, as Zuzaku taken out Chinese Man, and but Bacon and Vegan is now the last member of UCD standing, and that's going to be a really nice hook from Entitled there to take him out. Inhibitor down, Dano's ending the game. That's going to be it, veteran.
Great hook from the Fresh there. We will not mention what happened against the Nami really, really early on, and yes, they have managed to make the comeback. The super scaling composition has super scaled in. That ticking time bomb has exploded. The mega structure is complete, and its name is TUD Alpha.
They called back to the exact same kills UCD had as well. That is so
lore
clutch. You don't see that very often, but yeah, that's an absolute banger of a first game. As far as first games go, that was a fun game, and I loved that Baron fight earlier. I loved every second of it, to be fair. Especially that Baron fight.
we set expectations at the start. The very opposite of those expectations happened, led to a really interesting game scenario. Both teams played properly to the openings that they had created, even though that they were in the opposite areas where they initially expected them to. You had this Jhin going ham, you had the Nocturne being the one that ended up being played for, and then you had this really interesting dichotomy of really good map play by TUD Alpha versus very, very kill-hungry, attempting to snowball gameplay, but they got lost in the reads, the Leviathans did in this one, right? They loved that they were getting these kills, they kept taking these fights, but they're taking them in the wrong areas for the wrong reasons. Kills for kills' sake, and by losing sight of those objectives, TUD Alpha were able to get back into the game, stall it out until the Karthus was online, Nocturne was online, and eventually they were unstoppable. And they fully deserved to win this game off that. Bit of a draft diff in that regard. The gameplay-wise, really happy about what I saw from both teams there. They both did what they had to do, both very, very committed to the play here. They really wanted it, and I love when you have games where both teams really want it.
I think you're dead on there. I think, especially when I was hyping up TUD at the start of this game when I went into this, I really thought TUD had a real substantial, I guess, mental advantage over UCD, especially knowing the players playing for it. And I really think UCD played really well for their advantage. I think, why do you ask me? Really played well that early game, really played hyper aggressive against that Karthus. And I mean, he shouldn't feel too disheartened about that loss because he played it really well. It was just rather unfortunate that they just got out macroed later on. But I mean, really well played from UCD, and TUD especially really well done for that ending. I think all of it was super smooth. Especially, I like that Baron play where they chunked out the Jhin and the Nami with the Jace, and then immediately threw that Karthus ulti to make sure they knew they got a recall off from UCD and made sure they were down 2 people so they could just take that Baron instantly. That was fairly clever.
really impactful Jace QE there, and it's just very difficult for the Jhin to play around that, right? You have to be really on point with dodging, but they have full Baron control. The whole map goes dark there. You're not realistically reacting to that QE in time, so really good advantage that they were able to get for that. Really good composition they had for those scenarios. It's also why we're calling that the Jace death really early on around that Drake. That was a bit of an issue because that's the power that Jace has when the games inevitably stall around those neutrals.
I think it's dead right. And I mean, that was a really good first game, but we're going to throw it to a break. We will be right back soon. Please, lads, don't go anywhere.